Imagine trusting someone with your entire life savings, only to find out years later that it's all gone. Bernie Madoff orchestrated a fraud so massive, it shook the global financial system and ruined thousands of lives. But wait until the end of this video, because the final twist about how Madoff viewed his crimes will leave you stunned. Bernie Madoff's story didn't start with greed and deception. It started with ambition. Born in 1938 in Queens, New York, Madoff grew up in a modest Jewish household. After graduating from Hofstra University, he entered finance with just $5,000, earned through lifeguarding and installing sprinkler systems. This was the seed money for Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, founded in 1960. By the 1980s, Madoff was a titan of Wall Street. His firm wasn't just successful, it was innovative. He helped popularize electronic trading, which revolutionized the stock market, and served as chairman of NASDAQ for 3 terms. Madoff was a trusted advisor to wealthy individuals, corporations, and even non-profits. To many, he was the embodiment of financial success and integrity. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. The essence of Madoff's Ponzi scheme was simple but devastating. He promised consistent, high returns through a so-called split-strike conversion strategy. He claimed this method used a combination of stock investments and options to hedge risk. It sounded sophisticated and plausible, but in reality, it was pure fiction. Madoff didn't invest the money at all. Instead, he used funds from new investors to pay the returns of older ones. This gave the appearance of a thriving portfolio. The real genius, or evil, of the scheme lay in his attention to detail. Madoff provided detailed account statements, complete with fake stock trades and balances. Clients believed they were seeing legitimate profits. Part of what made Madoff's scheme so effective was his reputation. He portrayed himself as an unassuming, charitable family man. Madoff was deeply involved in philanthropic causes, particularly within the Jewish community. This gave him access to a network of wealthy and influential individuals who were eager to invest with someone they saw as both capable and trustworthy. His exclusivity also played a role. Madoff often turned potential investors away, creating the impression that his fund was a privilege to join. This scarcity mindset, combined with his status, drew in everyone from celebrities to charities to hedge funds. Not everyone was convinced. Harry Markopoulos, a financial analyst, became suspicious of Madoff as early as 2000. He analysed Madoff's claimed returns and concluded they were statistically impossible. Markopoulos described Madoff's strategy as the equivalent of a unicorn in finance. It simply didn't exist. Markopoulos filed detailed reports with the SEC, but they were ignored. Regulatory agencies conducted superficial investigations that failed to uncover the fraud. This lack of oversight allowed Madoff's scheme to grow unchecked for nearly 2 decades. By 2008, the global financial crisis was in full swing. As markets tanked, Madoff's investors began withdrawing funds en masse. Without new investments to cover these payouts, the scheme unraveled. On December 10, 2008, Madoff confessed to his sons, Mark and Andrew, who worked in the legitimate market-making side of the firm. They immediately reported him to federal authorities. The next day, Madoff was arrested in his Manhattan penthouse. The numbers were staggering. Over 37,000 victims in 136 countries, with losses totaling an estimated $65 billion. Lifelong savings, retirement funds, and philanthropic endowments were gone overnight. In 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud and money laundering. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison. During his sentencing, Madoff said, "I cannot adequately express how sorry I am for what I've done." But for many, his apology rang hollow. The aftermath was devastating. Some victims, like philanthropist Elie Wiesel, lost everything. Others were so overwhelmed with shame and despair that they took their own lives. Among them was Madoff's own son, Mark, who died by suicide in 2010. Despite the damage, efforts to recover stolen funds have been remarkably successful. Trustee Irving Picard has clawed back over $14 billion, returning money to thousands of victims. It's one of the largest financial recovery efforts in history. And here's the twist. Even after his conviction, Bernie Madoff claimed he wasn't solely to blame. In interviews, He suggested that some of his investors must have suspected the returns were too good to be true, but didn't question it as long as they were profiting. It's a chilling reminder of how greed can cloud judgment, not just for the perpetrator, but for the victims as well. The Bernie Madoff scandal exposed glaring flaws in financial regulation and human psychology. It led to stricter oversight by the SEC and new laws aimed at preventing similar schemes. But it also left a scar on the lives of thousands, a cautionary tale of trust misplaced and greed unchecked. What do you think? Could another Bernie Madoff emerge in today's world, or have we learned enough to stop it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Thanks for watching.